TCA Srinivasa Raghavan, senior journalist, long-time watcher of the central bank, is joining me on the phone line. TCA, thanks so much for taking our call. You've been quite vocal on Twitter on what this means and does not mean, where it's being overplayed. Have you had a chance to look at the government statement? Do you think that's as much of a comforter as we could have expected in the current situation?
Well, yes. I mean, they couldn't have said anything more. They couldn't have said anything less. And all that they have said is that we consult with these institutions, whichever it might be, and we will continue to do so. So, I mean, really, it's a very bland statement. It's not saying very much. And we don't know what happens next. I've been watching various television channels in the morning, and everybody's been going on about that Section 7 thing and about whether Urjit will resign or something. But there's no real further news other than this, isn't it? Unless you say it differently.
No, absolutely, TCA. On that Section 7 point, you're right. Everything that's come out, even whatever we've reported has been source-based, suggesting that some discussions have been initiated under that, not, the provision hasn't been invoked. Others are saying that it was just mentioned as an option in the letters that the government wrote. But tell me, how dramatic would it be for that section to be invoked? I mean, it exists for a purpose, but it has never been used, hence sort of this, cloud over what it could mean.
The thing is that, yes, you're probably right that it's never been used formally. But its spirit, if not the letter, that is the government telling governors or the Reserve Bank what they want done quietly. And after a bit of, fussing over it, the Reserve Bank has gone ahead and done it. This has happened, as you do also know, many, many times. So if the governor is not amenable at all to that kind of persuasion, verbal persuasion, then if the government feels that, yes, whatever happens, we've got to do this, then, well, yes, they could go ahead and issue a letter. After all, that provision was put into the Act back in 1944 or 45 or something. There's a whole history to it. And if it's there, and if the government thinks it's in the public interest, they'll do it. There's nothing particularly dramatic about it. It's just that it would be sad if it came to that. That's all.
Would it automatically mean that the governor would need to go?
No, not at all.
Okay. So it could be invoked and the governor could stay.
That depends on his ego. आपने मेरी बात नहीं सुनी, आपने मुझे हुक्म दिया, इसलिए मैं जा रहा हूँ. Yeah, that's always there. It would be sad if it came to that. I hope these guys can sort it out without too much of a fuss.
All right, TCA, just last question to you, and hopefully we'll have a longer conversation when this, maybe gets resolved one way or the other. But, you in one of your tweets, you said that this is old wine in a new bottle, perhaps, or the latest bottle, as you said it. Yes, tensions have played out sometimes publicly, and this time, as publicly as possible, I guess. The issues at play, or at least the ones that we are publicly aware of, do you think they warrant this kind of a standoff? Is it the reserves issue, which is the most dramatic among the issues that are being talked about?
I have no idea to what extent these issues in themselves are important and to what extent there are major egos involved. It's very hard to say, but, you remember, even when Chidambaram was governor, finance minister, and Reddy was governor, there used to be this constant thing going on about, interest rates, and Chidambaram telling the banks just before the monetary policy review meeting, saying that, you should do this, you should do that. So it all depends on the egos of the people involved. The issue itself, as far as, the reserves thing is concerned, the answer is you have to take a call on whether, in order to bring down the fiscal deficit, you need the Reserve Bank's money. And then if you think in the sort of, fullness of things, that if you think that, yes, the government needs that money to bring down the deficit, that is one thing. But if the government wants the money to go and spend it on giving people laptops and so on, that's a completely different issue. So in the end, it will all depend on what they want to do with the money. Secondly, there has been, on a more technical thing, there has been this fuss about what should be the reserves, the size of the reserves in relation to the size of the balance sheet. If you remember, Dr. Reddy had got a report written which said it should be 12%. Now, the reserves have never, I'm not talking of Forex, these RBI reserves, they have never touched 12%. They've been around 10%. And since, I think, Raghuram Rajan's time, they've been coming down. Nothing has been transferred in the last 3 years or 4 years or something. And it's around 7% now. So the call that the economists or the policymakers or whoever it is have to take is that can we bring it down below 7%? What would be the macroeconomic consequences? Now, the answer to that question is, why did Dr. Reddy want the reserves to be at, say, 12% or 10%? And the answer was that in case there is some sort of an emergency, the Reserve Bank should have the firepower to be able to deal with it. So, these are judgment calls that these guys have to take. So consultations, yes, very important. And somebody has to sit down and figure out which way the sort of, penny should drop. So we'll just simply have to wait and see. I hope they sort it out. But really, sitting on the outside without the numbers and all is very hard to say why the government would want the money. As far as the other stuff is concerned, about that February 12 circular and various other things, those are minor issues. Exactly. I don't think that's something over which anybody should resign or, send out a letter or something.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really about fiscal deficits and government needing money to spend, perhaps before the elections. I don't know.
Okay.
That sort of thing, yeah.